In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Yeah.
Meet the Mets. Meet the Mets.
The Mets.
Step right up and greet the Mets.
That's
bring
right.
Bring your kiddies, bring your wife.
Maybe not.
Guaranteed to have the time of your life because
Maybe not.
are really socking the ball.
Well,
Not those home runs over the wall.
not really.
East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York.
Your town.
Oh, the butcher and the baker.
Oh, boy.
and the
All right, we could start to fade here. Elias. I didn't know about that whole second stanza was coming, but the longest losing streak in Mets history, and welcome to Concha at Night. This is WABC. I am the aforementioned Joe Concha. Yeah, their longest losing streak was 17 games, but that was back in 1962. So if I'm doing the math there, we are talking 64 years ago. Yeah. They were an expansion team then, so they could kind of be forgiven at that point. They finished with 120 losses that year. Curiously, they had a tie. I'll have to look that one up and how that happened exactly. But they've also had, let's see, a 15-game losing streak in 1963. Also one in 1982, a 13-game losing streak in 1980. All right, and 12 games in 2002. So they've been down this road before. The Mets have now lost 11 straight, and it's just not. You try to understand how this happens. They have one of the highest payrolls in baseball, but here we are. But a lot of people are pointing towards the Mandani curse. The Mandani curse. And excuse me, the Mets have lost 12 games. I can't count this high sometimes. That's right. They lost last night as well to Minnesota. Yeah, ever since Zara Mandani went to Citi Field and hugged it out with Mr. and Mrs. Met, those are the mascots, they have not won a game since. So you have to wonder, there was the curse of the Bambino. That was Babe Ruth being traded from the Red Sox to the Yankees. The Red Sox then paid for that by not winning a World Series. Let's see. And we're talking like 1923 all the way till 2004. So yeah, a really, really long time. And then obviously the Cubs had one with the Billy Goat as well. That cursed them for a good, let's see, 55 plus 16, 71 years before they won another World Series. After that curse particularly came about. Anyway, so now the Mandani curse alive and well. Mets looking to end this losing streak tonight, but boy, I mean, that's not good karma right there at all, certainly. But at least we have the Mets theme to cheer us up in these situations. Anyway, so I do want to talk about the more serious stuff that we do on this show sometimes, and that is what happened in Virginia last night, where you have a situation where I guess Democrats, by trying to save democracy, are redrawing the map in the Commonwealth entirely, where Northern Virginia, which is profoundly liberal, can sneak its way into every Republican district, just enough where it probably tilts those districts from red to blue. So you have a state that Kamala Harris won by 5-point-something points, right? Not the biggest margin. It's probably a purplish leaning blue state. And you're going to end up having 10 Democrats and 1 Republican. In other words, 90% of your representation in Congress will be Democrat, despite the fact being, Virginia's a 50-50 state, more or less. They just had Glenn Youngkin as a very popular governor, Republican, just last year. The point is that Democrats keep saying over and over again that they're doing this to save democracy. And I never liked gerrymandering. It shouldn't be part of the Constitution. It's It just doesn't. Let's put it this way. In Virginia, for example, the people that get hurt most in these situations will be people who live in rural areas and minorities and people who shouldn't have bureaucrats, far left liberals from Northern Virginia, like Fairfax County, places like Leesburg, representing them in parts of the state that are nothing like the northern part of the state. But, I guess Democrats keep saying, well, this is what Republicans are doing in Texas. They're redrawing the map there, too. Well, that's a little different. Trump won that state by 13 points. Republicans are in control there. And it's not like Democrats are going to be left with one seat like they will in Virginia. Democrats will have plenty of seats in Texas. This is far different. This is a complete takeover right out of the Soviet playbook. Anyway, here's Scott Jennings on CNN last night talking about this win for the left, but is it really a win? Cut number 1, go.
Scott, what's your take?
Virginia literally had the fairest maps in the nation. They had a 6-5 map, 6 Democrats, 5 Republicans. In terms of proportional representation, they had the fairest map in the nation that was drawn, by the way, by an independent commission that the voters asked for just a few years ago. Now they will have the least fair maps in the nation. And I'm not surprised that the yes vote won. They had all the money and all the lies. And sometimes in politics, when you got those two things, you can put something over the line. Even something as egregious as this whole thing has driven Spanberger's approval ratings down into the toilet. She lied to the people of Virginia. They had to write a ballot question that was a joke. They drew maps that were a joke. Now you're going to have huge chunks of rural Virginia represented by 5 or 6 Democrats who all live in Northern Virginia within about 15 miles of each other. It's a complete joke. Everybody knows it. And there's a reason that all these national Democrats and all their money came into Virginia because, they don't really care about the people of Virginia. They just care about power, what they did. What I have a problem with in Virginia is you had a fair map, and you also had an independent commission draw it, and you also had the new governor, tell the people of Virginia during her campaign she wasn't going to do it. So this whole thing was built on lies, and the ballot question, if you read it, was a total joke. You showed the map of the districts. They're a complete joke. And so I think what they've done is they basically disenfranchised 90% of the state.
So now, what is the next move for the GOP? Well, Florida, which again is not like Virginia. Kamala wins Virginia by 5 points. Trump won Florida going away by 14 points. Its current governor won that governor's race by 18 points. It's as red almost as Alabama at this point, right? So it should have a weighted representation of Republicans to Democrats in that state. Of course, people have to vote and confirm that, regardless of the way the district is drawn up. But the point is that if you have more seats, so to speak, added to the Republican side in Florida, it's justified based on the numbers. But Hakeem Jeffries decides to go like full, Dirty Harry here and says FAFO, which is blank around and find out if you dare to redistrict Ron DeSantis. This is Hakeem talking tough and being the biggest hypocrite going, which is really hard to do in Washington. This is cut number 12. Go.
Our message to Florida Republicans is F around and find out. If they go down the road of a DeSantis dummy mander, the Florida Republicans are going to find themselves in the same situation as Texas Republicans, who are on the run right now. And under no circumstances are Texas Republicans picking up 5 seats. They'll be fortunate if they get 2 or 3. While in California, we are going to get all 5. The Republicans are dummy mandering their way into the minority before a single vote is cast because they started this war and we're going to finish it.
Oh, yeah, they started the war. California did this years ago, as did New York, as did Illinois. I can name state after state where Democrats have redistricted as a result of not listening to the voters, but because, well, it's all a power grab. And why is Florida dummy mandering? Again, you guys did this with Virginia, all right? And in places like Texas and Florida, it is justified because you have the current president winning in those states by double digits. And then to brag that California is going to get all 5 seats. Well, California, more and more is becoming red at this point. Well, anyway, Ron DeSantis, never one to take any of this stuff laying down. Here he is in Cut 13 firing back at Hakeem, and this is one of the better retorts that you will hear. Cut 13, go.
I heard this guy Jeffries popping off in Washington about Florida. He wants to be Speaker of the House, and he's kind of like, more liberal than Pelosi and all this other stuff from New York City. I just want to know, Florida can't do, we're going to go after Florida. Please be my guest. I will pay for you to come down to Florida and campaign. I'll put you up in the Florida governor's mansion. We'll take you fishing. We'll do all this stuff. There's nothing that could be better for Republicans in Florida than to see Hakeem Jeffries, everywhere around this state. Voters will not like what they see. They will not want that type of ideology. And so the door is open. The invitation's out there. I don't think there'd be anything better for the Republican Party of Florida but to have Jeffries there. Now, I kind of feel bad for the guy because he's as left as they come. He's always going left. And yet the far left hates him. They call him a dollar store Obama. They call him AIPAC Shakur, all these different derogatory names that they do. And so he's tried to ingratiate himself with but they're just not drinking the Kool-Aid, and so they give him a hard time. So I kind of feel bad for that. But please be my guest to come down in Florida. We would love to have you.
That would be hilarious, because the irony is that many people in Hakeem's district are getting the hell out of New York and moving to, ding, 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 Florida. And again, if Hakeem Jeffries is going to go down there and start campaigning against redistricting when he was full-throated behind what happened in Virginia, which, by the way, wasn't a blowout. It was something like 51 to about 49%. So now 51% of voters in a special referendum held on a random Tuesday in April can dictate and disenfranchise the 49% who voted against that measure. I'm sorry. There's something seriously wrong when this is happening. It's going to happen everywhere now. Now, left states, the states are all going to go far left, and then any red states, rightly, should go far right. And we see in Indiana that there is not a lot of spine to do this from Republicans there. Well, you guys better wake up, because this is, I guess, the new rule, the new way, and it's just not, I think, the intention of our framers originally to just do these power grabs. But again, I think Democrats are doing it, and it's completely unjustified, 10-1 margin in Virginia, while Florida and Texas aren't going to have margins like that, but yet are moving more red. Therefore, more representation is warranted. Meanwhile, before we go to break, this is John Fetterman, who is the last voice of reason, I guess, in the Senate for the blue team. And he just has had enough. I'm surprised he's still a Democrat. I don't expect him to become a Republican, but I could see him being an independent and being like a Joe Manchin type. But his popularity in Pennsylvania is quite amazing, despite the fact he goes against his party on a regular basis. He has some of the highest approval ratings of any senator in the country. And here is Fetterman on Fox News, because CNN and MS Now just don't like having him on very much anymore, because, well, he's not telling them what they think their audiences want to hear. Cut 3, his party, he believes, is rooting for the bad guys, as in Iran. Cut 3, go.
I'm the only Democrat effectively left in Congress to support epic fury. It's almost as if, we've forgotten on the Democratic side that the real enemy, the real threat, the real danger is Iran and its proxies too. And, every single Democrat, we want to break Iran. We make sure they never acquire a nuclear bomb, as we are approaching that 60 day of the war powers in the law. Iran must be so excited by the American media and the Democratic parties, the way it's like, as long as we can hang on for 60 days, more and more people continue to vote against, the Trump administration.
That's exactly right. What a gift to the IRGC, to the bad guys in Iran, that we have so many Democrats and its allies in the media rooting against the U.S., because that would make Trump look bad. They have a visceral hatred for Trump, and obviously this would help Democrats in the midterms, and that is the only calculation here, not good journalism and good governance, especially from the team in blue. This is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
playoffs are here, and you can predict the action all the way to the finals with FanDuel Predicts. Predict the spread, the total points, and even the game-winning moments that make the playoffs. Sign up and get a $25 bonus with FanDuel Predicts.
Offered by FanDuel Prediction Markets, LLC, a registered futures commission merchant. 18-plus bonus is non-withdrawable and expires 7 days after receipt. Trading derivatives involves significant risk and may not be suitable for all investors. Manage your activity with their consumer protection tools. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel.com/predicts/bonus-offer-terms.
I wrote a little song to remind you. Choice Hotels get you more of the experiences you value. The Cambria Hotel's got it all. A rooftop bar, have a ball. Bring a date, your squad, or even your mom. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Yeah, welcome back, everybody. So we played Dollar Store Obama earlier, that, of course, being Hakeem Jeffries. But that almost portrays Barack Obama as somebody of some sort of valuable worth in general, as a politician, as a leader. I don't think anybody divided the country more than he ever has. And during those 8 years, so much promise when he was coming in, and the only legacy that, well, I guess if we want to make it two things, Obamacare, where premiums are more than 50% higher than they were when that law was passed, and insurance rates through the roof, and our insurance industry in general just being a complete and total mess. Government running things usually results in these things. We should have known that, but at the same time, Obama didn't care, and that was rammed through along party lines back in 2009, 10, sometime around there. Anyway, but Obama is such, how do I put this, a phony. And here he is now in 2026, yay, redistricting. But back in 2020 and other years even before that, he was completely and totally against the idea. This is cut number 15. Go.
Gerrymandering means citizens' voices are being diminished. By voting yes, you have a chance to do something important, not just for the Commonwealth, but for our entire country, even a former president, who are joining together to end gerrymandering and ensure that our democracy is living up to its founding promise. By voting yes, you can push back against the Republicans trying to give themselves an unfair advantage in the midterms. And we're counting on you to help ensure a reasonable, transparent redistricting process that honors our ideal of equal representation.
I mean, that says it all, right? And you would hope that once, just once, somebody who interviews Obama just plays that montage to him and says, explain that. Because they are in complete and total contradiction of each other. The same guy says it, but it all just depends on, again, how will the Democratic Party benefit in that particular moment? The guy has the morals of a weather vane, and obviously we have seen that over and over again. Meanwhile, before we go to break, President Trump, actually, yeah, we'll play this real quick. Trump calling out a reporter who accused him of targeting his political opponents without one hint of irony in his voice. This is cut number 10. Go.
Mr. President, what do you say to people who worry that targeting an individual firm or individuals who aren't Jack Smith?
Excuse me, actions? I've been targeted for 4 years, longer than that. So you don't tell me about targeting. I was the target of corrupt politicians for 4 years, and then 4 years after that. So don't talk to me about targeting.
Yeah, I mean, 4 years. Let's face it, this has been going on for 10 years now, led by Obama, then Biden, then Jack Smith, then Fani Willis. You want to accuse Donald Trump of targeting? He has had the biggest target on his back, literally, for more than a decade. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
It's the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
So there's this really big story, and welcome back, everybody, regarding FBI Director Kash Patel. And the story goes based on, this is why the press is as trusted as gas station sushi at this point. 9 anonymous sources that are well familiar with Kash Patel's office. We've heard this 100 times before. Sources close to the president. Sources close to Kash Patel. 9 former officials or current officials commenting on his management style to a possible drinking problem by the FBI director. Okay. And this was in the Atlantic, where they talk about how Kash Patel may have a drinking problem, 1, and 2, that this guy thought he was getting fired by Trump because he was having trouble logging into his account at the FBI office and thought that he was already shut down, and then went into a full-scale panic. Of course, there isn't one named source for this story. And I always love how in these stories, whether it was Russia collusion, or remember Russia has a bounty on U.S. military members in Afghanistan. I could go through 100 stories, actually, as far as we have not 1, not 5. We'll just make it 9 sources. The higher the number, the more credible it is. But there are no named sources in this story. And it kind of doesn't make a lot of sense because Kash Patel has far outworked, has been far more transparent than his predecessors. It's just a fact. And Patel then is at a press conference today and is to talk about the SPLC, which is a corrupt left-wing organization that's been basically running a money laundering scheme with Democratic donations for many years. Grand jury actually confirmed that. But not to get into the weeds on that particular story, listen to this, all right? This is cut number 4, and this is how you handle, as Trump would say, the fake news media, because the premise of the question is completely unfounded and has no verification. And Patel recognizes this and pushes back exactly the way that he should have. Cut number 4, go.
Explain the computer login issue. Just explain the computer login issue. You were not able to log into your lawsuit contends that you were not able to log into the system. What did you think after you were unable to log into the system?
Let's have a survey. How many of you people believe that's true? Hang on.
Did you communicate?
You asked the question. Let me answer it.
No. Did you communicate with anyone that you thought you were fired after you were unable to log into?
The problem with you and your report, don't cut me off. You asked the question.
Yeah.
The problem with you and your baseless reporting is that is an absolute lie. It was never said. It never happened. And I will serve in this administration as long as the president and the attorney general want me to do so. And every time you guys report false lies, every time you guys raise baseless questions, when we are here to talk about the Southern Poverty Law Center's $3 million decade-long scheme to fraudulently fleece Americans, you are off topic.
Yep. SPLC, Southern Poverty Law Center. That's what the press conference was supposed to be about. The left has far benefited from the FPLC for many, many years. And of course, here is this NBC reporter, which again, when did you ever see during the Autopen administration a reporter that hostile and cutting off the person that he's asking questions to? They always allowed anybody who was at that podium, like a Jen Psaki or Merrick Garland or Chris Wray. It doesn't matter, right? And I know Wray that was appointed by Trump, but he wasn't very good. We'll put it that way. And I'm not sure that Trump only replaced Comey with Wray because that was basically the next in line. My point is, before I go off on a tangent, that you just hear that exchange, and it's no longer like this reporter wants a question answer. He wants a debate. So then he could go back to his bosses at NBC, which is profoundly liberal, and get a gold star and maybe a new contract. And that's all that's about. Meanwhile, so now this is how it works. The Atlantic publishes this hit piece, and there's no verification, confirmation behind it. Again, no name sources whatsoever, because maybe there are no sources. Or maybe the sources that came forward with this are profoundly anti-Trump, anti-Patel. anti-Trump administration in general. So now Chuck Schumer will now seize on this story, present it as gospel instead of gossip, and talk about how, all right, well, this settles it, just like with Pete Hegseth. Obviously, this guy has a drinking problem, despite there's zero evidence of that, right? No DUIs in his past, no domestic disputes, no fight in a bar, nothing, right? Oh, he had a beer with the Olympic hockey team after the men defeated Canada. Great. Yeah, that proves everything. But here is Chuck talking about how, well, we need sober leadership in the FBI and in Washington in general, which is the biggest joke of all time. Cut number 7, go.
On Patel. Every day Kash Patel remains in this job is another day that undermines the FBI and its mission. Take yesterday's press conference. The head of the FBI, the nation's top law enforcement officer, spent the entire time getting into fights with reporters about his alleged drunken behavior, his partying, his overall fitness for the job. This has become a dangerous, unacceptable distraction for the FBI, which has so much important work to do.
Oh, man. All right.
Donald Trump has led us to war right now against him.
Yeah. So again, presented as fact. That's defamation right there. Oh, by the way, if you want to look at Kash Patel's record, all I know is that we have a murder rate that is at a 125-year low. So if you just want baseline number as far as, hey, how are the crime fighters doing? Pretty darn good. And hundreds of terrorists have been arrested as a result of ICE and the FBI working in coordination with the DOJ. These are people, obviously, who came here illegally, and now they're being ousted from the country or outright being sent to jail. Kash Patel deserves all the credit in the world for that. Meanwhile, Chuck Schumer never really said much about Kamala Harris having a possible drinking problem, despite ample, I don't want to say evidence, but boy, she talks funny sometimes. We'll just put it that way. Like in this cut number 8, go.
Closest election for President of the United States in the 21st century.
Wow, I know that's right. The Howard grad did that.
And a Howard grad did
Yeah. So Kamala said that this was the closest election in the 21st century. The one in 2024, the one when she didn't win one swing state, lost a popular vote. That one got crushed in the Electoral College. Yeah, you can't be completely and totally there and coherent if you make a claim like that, because it's not like, oh, it was a close second. Gore Bush, that comes to mind. That was pretty close. Let's see. Kerry Bush actually was pretty close. Came down to Ohio, came down to one state, just like Florida came down to one state in 2000. Let's see. Romney Obama was closer. Hillary Trump was definitely closer. Biden Trump was definitely closer. So outside of basically one election, she's right. Closest election of the 21st century. I'm sorry, 5th closest. And we're only in 2026. Not too many elections to choose from, but just wanted to point that out. Anyway, here we have Senator Patty Murray. This is such outstanding stuff here. She actually says with a straight face that she has never heard, and Patty Murray is a senator from the state of Washington, she's never heard a Democrat call for defunding ICE. I think we have some evidence around this. Let's play cut number 16 first, and then we'll go rapid fire from there. Cut 16, go.
I have not heard one Democrat say defund ICE. Yeah. What I have heard every single Democrat repeatedly say, when you fund ICE agents, then make sure they have training, make sure they have warrants, make sure they act like law enforcers, and have the ability to have the trust of the American people. That's what we're asking for.
Never heard a Democrat call for defunding, therefore abolishing ICE. Well, we have what they call receipts here on Concha at Night. Let's play cut number 17. This is Senator Markey of Massachusetts. Cut 17, go.
So we're still going to have a big battle over ICE. I believe ICE should be defunded. I don't think that ICE is any longer capable of existing because it is so corrupt at its core. But we still have to have that debate.
Okay, so that's a defund call right there from Markey. How will we go to Let's Go Brandon? Not Brandon Biden, of course, but of course this is now Brandon Johnson. He of 13% approval in the great city of Chicago. Let's see. Major American city, big mayor. What does he have to say about ICE? Cut 18, go.
We need to stand together to ensure that we put an end to the mass deportations. We must put an end and abolish ICE.
Not a lot of ambiguity there. That sounds pretty definitive. Okay. How about Abdul El Said? He is running for the Senate, believe it or not, in Michigan. And this is what this maniac has to say. Cut number 19, go.
There is no reforming. There is no retraining. There is only abolishing ICE.
Yep. That's not exactly, as they say, clear as mud. That's pretty clear. I think he wants to abolish ICE. Anyway, Seth Moulton, who is a senator from Massachusetts, boy, that's a pretty liberal state. How does he feel about the whole abolish ICE situation? Cut number 20, go.
The bottom line is that ICE was created by George W. Bush after 9/11. It should be put back in the Department of Justice. It should cease to exist.
Cease to exist. That is another way of saying I want to abolish and defund ICE. Okay, let's see. We're 1, 2, 3, 4 for 4 at this point. Can we go 5 for 5 on this Wednesday evening? Here is, come on, we had to go here. The Congresswoman from the 14th District of New York. She is Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. And she even sells abolish ICE merchandise. And obviously, rhetorically, it was pretty easy to find this cut because there's like 100 of them. Cut number 21, go.
I think abolish ICE is a call to action on several levels. One is the literal interpretation of ICE, which I support. I've said, on multiple occasions that I don't believe that an agency that systematically and repeatedly violates human rights I don't think that agency can be reformed.
Okay, so can't be reformed, must abolish. All right, well, if I had more time, I am in Disney right now, and I work. Right? Even on vacation, I work. And even going from ride to ride, literally on Space Mountain, I found those 5 cuts. I could have found 50 more from Democrats talking about defunding and abolishing ICE. That is their platform. They are pro, and we saw it during Trump's State of the Union, pro illegal immigrant, anti-U.S. citizen, because not one would stand when Trump called on them to say, stand if you support U.S. citizens over illegal immigrants, and not one would stand. That speaks volumes. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
We went back inside, sat down, had a few drinks, but all we kept talking about story.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Pepsi Prebiotic Cola in original and cherry vanilla. That Pepsi taste you love with no artificial sweeteners and 3 grams of prebiotic fiber. Pepsi Prebiotic Cola. Unbelievably Pepsi.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
All right, so some breaking news here. We've been talking a lot about what happened in Virginia last night as far as redistricting, basically a purple state that Kamala Harris only won by 5 points to make it a 10-1 congressional map in favor of Democrats. It's currently 6-5 now. Well, it ain't over yet because a Virginia Circuit Court has just ruled yesterday's vote unconstitutional and has issued an injunction blocking the results from being certified. So what happens here, of course, it'll probably go to the state Supreme Court. They'll make the final decision. And then from there, I'm not quite sure how this works. I have to admit, I watched A Few Good Men a few times, LA Law back in the day. But would this eventually go to the Supreme Court if the Republican Party wanted it to? Maybe. And again, I don't see how this is constitutional in any way, shape, or form. Just, again, you look at the way these maps were drawn. It is utterly ridiculous. It disenfranchises votes, and it has all these liberals from Northern Virginia representing those in Southern Virginia. And you might as well just... Southern Virginia might as well be West Virginia. I mean, it really is two very, very different states. And the fact that obviously this was done to try to counter what Republicans are doing in Texas, which, again, it's not like Texas is going to leave one Democrat in Congress, right? That's a much, much more fair map. And what Ron DeSantis plans to do in deep red, that's what it is at this point, Florida. So this now goes to the courts. And you listen to guys like Jonathan Turley over on Fox. He will tell you that Democrats may have a very, very hard time here as far as getting this certified from a legal perspective because it is so egregious. Meanwhile, we have the senator just north of me here in New Jersey named Chris Murphy, Democrat. This guy, we talked about it yesterday. It's worth saying again. He had the audacity when Iranian propaganda started floating around Twitter, now X, saying that 26 Iranian ships were able to bust through the U.S. blockade and were flowing freely to their port of call. Murphy then put the tweet up saying that had happened and then wrote above it his own words, amazing. In other words, amazing that the U.S. military is losing. Amazing that Trump looks bad now. What sitting senator would do this? I mean, I don't use the word treason very often, but that's treason, right? But here is Trace Gallagher, my colleague over on Fox, calling out Murphy because then Murphy was asked about it afterwards when you never saw somebody get what's called ratioed like this on X in terms of like people just screaming at this guy saying, how could you write something like that? What's wrong with you? And so Murphy said, oh, no, I was just being sarcastic. Sure you were. This is Trace Gallagher calling this out on Fox. Cut number 6. Go.
Awesome is also the word Connecticut Democrat Senator Chris Murphy posted on X in response to a headline reading, quote, at least 26 Iranian vessels bypass U.S. blockade, which, by the way, the U.S. Navy denies. But when Senator Murphy posted, quote, awesome, he got pushback. So Murphy downplayed it by saying his awesome response was sarcasm. Then when he was asked if he would take down his alleged sarcastic response, Murphy simply said he'd be more careful about sarcasm. That sounds like a no. Recently, when he describes the president's handling of the war, Murphy uses words like bungling and mismanaged. So when he pulls against Trump, he's serious. When he pulls for Iran, he's kidding. Except, is he kidding? Because the senator has a history of pulling for Iran. A few years ago, he wanted to take the IRGC off the U.S. foreign terrorist list and remove all their sanctions. Murphy also called the assassination of terror leader Qasem Soleimani, quote, the equivalent of the Iranians assassinating the U.S. Defense Secretary. Common sense thinks Senator Murphy is either super humorous and super sarcastic, or he's taking swings at the wrong team.
Boom. And by the way, just to put a little bow on what Trace was saying there, here is Murphy in 2020 calling for the IRGC, the Republican Guard of Iran, absolutely a terror group. He wanted them off the terror watch list. Seriously. Cut number 5. Go.
Would you take the Iran's Revolutionary Guard off the terror list in order to get a deal?
Yes. I mean, the practical impact of designating them as a foreign terrorist organization is inconsequential. We have dozens of other terrorist designations on the IRGC that would remain.
Yeah, but just to get a deal, we take them off, right? These are the guys that help train Hezbollah, Hamas, you know, that terror group that carried out the biggest attack and massacre of Jews that we have not seen, I should say, since the Holocaust. Let's take those guys off, the Houthis that have been firing at our ships in the Gulf of Oman and the Strait of Hormuz for many, many years. And we want to go easy on them. So at the time, we can get a deal with Iran because, they're totally believable and they would never pursue nuclear weapons. And they wouldn't take billions of dollars of cash that President Obama sent over to them and send them to the aforementioned proxies so they could continue being the leading state sponsor of terror. I mean, this guy may run for president. And again, the Democratic bench, if this is a serious contender, this ain't the 96 Chicago Bulls. We'll put it that way. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This has been Concha at Night. We're back tomorrow night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time here on WABC and on stations around the country. We go out with Glory Days from the insufferable Bruce Springsteen. At the time, I love the song, all about baseball. Can the Mets end their losing streak? We will see. I'm Joe Concha, and I got 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
He could throw that speedball by you, make you look like a fool boy. Saw him the other night at this roadside bar. I was walking in, he was walking out. We went back inside, sat down, had a few drinks, but all we kept talking about was glory days.
Hey, sweetie, your mother showed me this Carvana thing for selling the car. I'm going to give it a try. Wish me luck. Me again. I put in the license plate. It gave me an offer. Unbelievable. Okay, I accepted the offer. They're picking it up Tuesday from the driveway. I haven't even left my chair. It's done. The car's gone. I'm holding a check. Anyway, Carvana, give it a whirl. Love ya.
So good, you'll want to leave a voicemail about it. Sell your car today on
Carvana.
Pickup fees may apply.